And we're live. Are live.
There we go. We got Ingrid coming on. I'll just keep adding people on. You can just start up, Ross.
Fantastic. Welcome everybody to Down the Rabbit Hole, a place where we have an open discussion about virtually anything you want. We will start today, as we normally do, as kind of a continuation of Thursday's live stream when we're talking about the placebo factor. And I'm going to start with a story, a daughter's story. And one day, a nurse at the hospital called him up in arms because one of his patients was hysterical and frantic, and they couldn't calm her down because one of the lab technicians had somehow left a urine sample from the other person in her room on the lady's bedside table. And she drank it and thought she was going to die. And she was exhibiting extreme signs of stress and physical symptoms of breakdown. And so my father, the doctor, hot-footed to the hospital from his office across the street, knowing, of course, that urine is a sterile blood filtrate, and anyone can drink urine with absolutely no effect on themselves whatsoever. And that many Eastern cultures actually recommend drinking a personal urine for enlightenment. He walked into her room and asked her what had happened. And after she sobbed out the story, he held her hand and said, "Well, I have some good news for you." And she said, "What?" And he said, "The sample was negative." "Oh," she said, "thank God." And she immediately calmed down and fell asleep. And he just smiled all the way back to his office, because the power of the mind over a situation is simply completely amazing. And that's a true story.
That's hilarious.
It really is. You know, but we put our minds in that situation. We will create an outcome based on our own beliefs and understandings, and our body will react to that belief system. It'll react to that outcome as we project it from the future into our bodies.
Yeah. There's so many things that are a part of that process on the healing side, and also on the getting the unwell side, like how people actually create unwellness. There's so many variables. I was watching a show on Netflix last night, and it was a show about therapy and different types of therapies that were on the cutting edge, and people were getting some pretty crazy results. And one of the patients, or clients, I guess you'd call her, was talking about, she had some, chest pain on a regular. It was very tight. She couldn't sleep. It was like, all this symptoms of just like this constriction that was going on in her body, and has been for some time, right? And so she did the therapy, and they showed what happened, and some release that happened for her, and all the experience. And then in the interview after, because me, Ross, I'm a real, I tune into the language that people use and the impact that it can have on them, right?
Yeah, don't we both? Yeah.
And as she's talking in the interview, she said, I'm the kind of person who, I've always been the kind of person who holds my emotions close to my chest. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Do people not see that that's actually creating that tension in the chest from the languaging of how she chooses to deal and process with emotions? So it was just, for me, it was just kind of a flag and a reminder that there's so many components to the not only the creation of sickness, illness, dis-ease, but also in the other side of the releasing, the healing, and the letting go of it, right? And the rejuvenation of what the body is capable of. So yeah, so it was pretty interesting. I thought, that's interesting. I'll share that tomorrow. And then I saw this other thing when I was putting together my piece for Thursday's stream. There was it goes like this: the stones or great and magic power they have. Men that are sick fare to that stone, and they wash that stone, and with that water bathe away their sickness. And that was actually a phrasing that was used, that was really talking about the great monuments of Stonehenge, because back in some time ago, the thinking was that the Stonehenge monuments, it was actually a placebo hospital where they would send people to go and heal.
I haven't heard that one.
They
Okay.
would touch the stones, they would wash the stones, and they would think it was this healing hospital. And when they would send them, and people would get ridiculous kind of transformations. It was ridiculous.
Mhm.
And so it's, there's so many uses, whether intentional or otherwise, of placebo in our society. We don't really realize how rampant it is, in so many ways, right? I believe it was in 1996, there was 56 or so volunteers in, I can't remember the university, but they took part in a study to test a new painkiller, right? And the painkiller was applied to one finger on one hand, but not on the other. Then they took all the students through a process where they put a clamp on the finger, on the treated finger, and they squeezed, and they noticed the pain threshold, or whether they reported pain or not. They did the same with the other. Well, it turned out that all the students felt that the clamp that was on the treated finger, they didn't feel, they felt way less, significantly way less pain on that finger. And on the other one, it was almost immediate. Well, they came out and said that, hey, it was a fake treatment. There was no pain reduction components in what they put on at all.
Right. Similar to the example we used in the live stream with the Vaseline.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Vaseline was a treatment for burns.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, for those who missed that, even after they told them, hey, this is just Vaseline, they're like, I'll do it again because it still worked. It still worked really, really well.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Which in essence, though, I mean, if you really, really think about it, that's the last thing you want to put on a burn. They say the last thing you want to put on a burn is anything with oil. It's going to hold the heat in, so you're just like, this is crazy. It's just crazy. But they're like, hey, I believed it worked, and it worked. And they continued that belief. And as long, if to this day, if they continued that belief, it would continue to work. Hi, Mary. So, yeah. So unbelievable the way that this works. And we kind of chatted about this earlier too, is that even or when we from when we were all kids, how we'd like, I don't want to go to school, and we made ourselves sick. Mommy, I don't feel good, and such, and then all of a sudden we're like,
and I shared that during the stream as well, that I figured
exactly.
that out fairly early. But the cool thing was that I've been studying hypnosis since I was the age of 13. When I started to tap into the science of hypnosis, for me to shift to, oh, I can also create healing from that too. I could do that with that healing too. And all the way through my junior high years, my high school, and into my adulthood, I've always utilized the power of mind when I start to notice and tune in with my body kind of going off kilter, or things happening and creating shifts. When I was 15 and a half, I was about because summertime, 15 and a half. I don't know if you know, Ross, but I was being scouted for the Canadian World Cup soccer team.
Oh, no, I did not know that.
And when the scouts were at a particular game I was playing, coach shouldn't have told me, because I stepped it up, and I was like super intense, And turns out that I ended up tearing ligaments in my ankle on that game. So I just ran and I did a play, a defensive play that I probably, should have just let go, but I was just kind of, just trying to do the extra, right? And so they took me to the hospital that night, and the doctor looked at it, and doctor said that you're going to be out for probably a good 6 months. And I'm like, yeah, no way. Soccer was my life. It was like my escape. It was I was deeply, deeply passionate about it. And I was like, he didn't know that I knew self-hypnosis. So I was like, whatever, thanks, doc. So I went home and I made up a pretend treatment that I would put on my foot. Right. I can't remember what concoction I put together. Just the idea of putting something on there. Right. I mean, I'm almost 16. What do I know about medicine? Right.
Apparently more than the doctor.
Well, but it's just some concoction that I put together in my bedroom, and I put it on my ankle and I rub it. And as I did, I would then proceed to do a hypnotic process where I would guide myself into trance, and I would visualize, and I still do a version of this today, but I visualize, little healing workers leaving my brain, going down to the area and actually working and fixing it while I slept. Right. And within 2 weeks, I was back on the field playing full out.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. And, so it's so interesting how, we are easy to slip into the idea of all the, we just kind of succumb to the negative side of things of, thinking that it's natural for you to be in disease or in pain and those kinds of things, when it isn't. It's a choice, but it's something we've been conditioned to think.
Yeah. And something I meant to say when we did the live stream too, is that, we are not disrespecting medical science.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Medical science has its place. And there's a lot of
and so does psychology. I mean, so we're not just talking about the medicine side of it. I mean, the psychological side of it too. Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of Western trained doctors that they know what we know, but the system is set up to where they are not allowed to use these methods. And that's called malpractice, and to where whether it works or not, it doesn't matter.
Nowadays, it's not malpractice. Nowadays, it's social shaming and could cost your job.
Correct. Right? Exactly.
Without going through the courts. I mean,
and we're seeing that in other realms as well, but we don't want to get into that. But still, it's it's something that a doctor that I had, a naturopathic doctor that I had years ago, he's retired since, he was a Western trained doctor. And he's like, I couldn't work within this tight framework that they gave me. And because I knew all of this other stuff existed. So he gave up his license and simply became a naturopathic doctor. And, in my opinion, he saved my life. I mean, the guy was amazing. He found things what I was searching for or trying to cure when Western medicines just simply couldn't. Western medicine just wanted to give you something to, cover up the pain, or the symptom. Not necessarily, I wasn't really in pain, but the symptom. Again, I just want to kind of throw that out that, if I break my leg or I need a heart transplant, yeah, I'm going to want to go, use a Western trained doctor.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, if I'd broken my ankle, I wouldn't have gone home and done surgery. I mean, it was,
yeah, exactly.
And I don't even think I took the medication the doctor gave me, actually, because he did give me some painkillers and stuff, I believe, at the time.
It probably could have hindered you too.
Yeah, I remember not taking anything other than putting that stuff on and doing the hypnosis. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if he did or not. I know we did wrap it, and he said me to stay off of it and stuff like that. But yeah, it was like 2 weeks and I was back on the field, and the coach is like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." And I'm back on the field. I didn't get scouted, but I was back on the field playing soccer.
Yeah. I bet you
Um,
get scouted now, though.
maybe, maybe not for
Make
soccer.
it to the field.
Yeah.
So anybody have any questions? Feel free to use the chat to ask any specific questions you might have.
Yeah, jump
Jerry,
on
I
the
know that
mic
you
or
get a
jump on
lot
the
of comments
video.
on the live stream as well. So, please feel free to ask any questions that you have about whether it be the live stream or any other subjects or topics that we've covered.
Yeah.
I don't really have any questions because this actually topic is really near and dear to my heart. But the live stream actually, it's near and dear to my heart because of my own experience with
Mm.
breast cancer and oncologists in
Got
particular. I fired one because of the nocebo effect.
it.
Okay.
The complex story is I was diagnosed 2 years after my oldest sister was diagnosed with cancer, and she was doing everything that the medical community told her to do. 2 years after my diagnosis, she passed away.
Oh, sad.
Um,
I'm sorry.
but yeah, me too. But I learned a lot through both of our experiences. And my sister and my relationship was terrible on this life plane.
Mm.
But she, when I was diagnosed, was willing to share her experiences with me, in that she hoped that I would benefit from the information that she gave me. And I did benefit from the information she gave me, but in a way that she didn't intend.
Mm.
And I saw what was happening with Linda. Again, she was 2 years into her battle when I was diagnosed. And I thought to myself, that isn't for me. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I did have a BMX, but that's bilateral mastectomy.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
But I had decided at diagnosis that there was going to be another way. There was going to be an alternative way besides chemotherapy and radiation. Now, I'm not saying that this is the path for everybody, but it felt very clear to me this was my path.
Mm.
And 4 months after, 5 months after, I can't remember now, after the surgery, I finally saw an oncologist, and we ran some blood work, and my tumor markers were 26. And from my sister's information, she had indicated, well, that means that there aren't any, the tumor's gone. It's not producing whatever they're checking for, right?
Right.
So I had celebrated in that oncologist's office, and he said to me, he had the nerve to say to me, and I'm going to try to refrain from using swear words because I get very passionate about this.
Sure.
He said to me, it's just undetectable. I'm like, wait a minute, dude. I had to go home and actually check myself 2 or 3 times because he also then in that same appointment went to some old government database that provided some standard of care.
Mm-hmm.
And I already knew from a DNA exam of the cancer I had that they were no longer treating this particular blend of hormonal estrogen positive, progesterone positive, HER2 negative cancer with chemotherapy drugs. I knew that because of my oncological surgeon. Well, he comes back with a report that tells me that I was 66% likely to have a distant reoccurrence if I didn't do chemotherapy, if I didn't do what he said.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And my insides were basically, I don't know, 10,000 BBs in a boxcar. I don't know how else to explain it. Everything inside me was jumping up and down and screaming.
Wow.
But I had to say to my husband, I said, well, I have to check myself. I have to, and I was relatively inexperienced in listening to my intuition at that point in time. This is 9 years ago. And I came back and I said, you know what? I have to quit this dude. He has to be fired because he's not a team member. He just pulled the nocebo effect on me. And in the position when you've been diagnosed with the big C, you're dealing with many, 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 many things, and
So many
and
things, yeah.
you most desperately want someone to drive your ship for you,
Yeah.
because you want everything to be all right. And the
Yeah.
fact is, I was diagnosed 6 months after my mom died and 2 years into my sister's
Jeez.
battle. Life was machine gun
Yeah.
fire,
Yeah.
and I wanted to run and duck for cover. I didn't want to be strong at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So having that effect and realizing some years later that what he did was the nocebo effect. I didn't know that term at that
Mhm.
point,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I
and
knew, go ahead.
no, you go ahead, continue.
I was going to say that I knew that there were elements out there that I could help myself to heal from the damage of the surgery and any growth cells, stem cells that were floating around in my body, if I could give my body the resources. And you guys mentioned this in the live stream. If I could give my body the resources it needed in
Mhm.
order to heal and be healed.
Mhm.
I didn't know about the emotional aspect at that point in time.
Because in the
But
medical community, it's not even discussed at all, right? It's not even
you are
considered.
exactly correct. And they
Yeah.
do have a rubber stamp that's called the standard of care.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily a great stamp. And I love to find physicians who are willing to sort of navigate the standard of care, but yet allow you to do things a bit more traditionally,
Yeah.
holistically. Um, but
They're not easy
here
to
I
find.
am. No, they're not easy. They are not. Although I think now is probably the best time to look for one.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
pretty readily
Exactly.
available. It's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Well, a lot, I mean, and a lot of us don't. We don't do well checks. We don't go to the doctor when we're feeling good to give the doctor that baseline. But you hit a couple of really good points, and I think the biggest one is when you said, the doctor's not on my team. He's not on the same, at least on the same team that I'm on. And one of the things that I think I would like to stress is that you're the CEO of your body, of your life in general, but you're the CEO of your body. And if you're going to hire someone to be your advisor, then that's what they are. I see a Western trained doctor once a year, and I walk in with a list of tests or labs that I want him to run. Okay, because I already have my baseline from years ago. Run these. And he goes, well, I'm like, nope, just run those. And if I have any questions, I'll call you. And we'll come in and we'll discuss it and we'll go over these things. And I said, what do you think? Okay, that's it. What is your advice? You work for me. I am the CEO. I am in charge of my body. And the general public is not trained, goes in a different direction. We say and do whatever the doctor says.
Yeah, they've been conditioned to.
They can condition.
The general public is, and I understand this whole thing that we're going through now for the last year or so.
Yeah.
With the fear, which was a previous live stream.
Sure.
It is exactly the modality that was used 9 years ago for me on a micro level, not instead of, it was just me, right? And my family, and now it's more of a macro level. It's
right.
The patient and the person, the bus driver, the CEO, we're treated like we cannot be intelligent enough to discern what potentially, and yes, I like to hire people to help me navigate things I don't know.
Sure.
I am currently learning through a holistic group about mineral imbalances, which I have suffered since I had implants. I did have reconstructive implants, which made me desperately ill, and I had them removed in 2019. And I'm still dealing with exhaustion and really crazy things that go on that are never found by traditionally run medical blood work.
Right. Yeah. So there's people out there that they know so much more, or are allowed to know. And I can't stress this enough. I mean, if you look what's been happening the last 2 years, and you listen to some doctors who are literally shut down, turned off. It's like, you are not on the same page as the rest of us, and you're either going to lose your job or you're going to lose your license if you don't conform to this messaging. And it's really sad, but where you're saying it's on the micro level, this is now on the macro level.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, whoa, what just happened? And now this also has to be tempered too. Is like, I'm not saying don't see a doctor, because they know a lot, but temper
But
that.
not
Exactly.
everything. They know a lot, but not everything.
Right. And don't let the fear get involved. And you can qualify a doctor in the first visit. It's you can just tell, are you being just run through it like a cattle call? Is the first thing that they do is say, get out with their prescription pad? Those are my first two signs. But again, I want to, for all the doctors that are out there and the people in the medical industry, we love you dearly. But there is a point where, as I said earlier, is that they simply can't. They committed their lives to a particular way of life of healing people. And there are so many rules on top of them of what they can and cannot do. And it's actually very, very sad.
Absolutely. It is absolutely the truth. Their hands are very tied. And I admire many in the medical community
Absolutely.
who can guide people to their own healing. And
we can walk that line.
Yeah.
There are in fact some, I'm just going to use this as an example. There is an alternative clinic in Mexico that has healed people of stage 4 cancer, and it's documented. But one of the things that they say from a psychological standpoint is they have intake interviews, and they know based on those, after all they've practiced, they've done this for many years, and after the many years, they recognize an individual that is going to have success with their program.
That's
and an
great.
individual who is not going to have success based on their mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I often wonder when I see these things, how much does the placebo effect play a role in that? Because your mindset, they know you're going to carry on, and you're going to do very well with your lifestyle change and addressing all aspects that need to be healed in order for the body to be well.
Well, the placebo has been in the medical, doctors have been using it since like the early 1700s. They've been using even the term placebo, and they used they used to use fake drugs when they didn't have the proper drug available. They would use the fake drug because they realized the power of it, right? And or if someone had like an imagined symptom that didn't really need them, they would concoct some fake therapy, whether it was drug or do this or whatever. They would concoct that, and they would notice people would get results. But it was really initially as a means of, I don't know what else to do, but I got to do something to help this person, right? In fact, the term placebo means I shall please in Latin, right? Which was really a hint of its history of placating troubled patients.
Well, don't you feel, I don't know if I'm on or not.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Mhm.
Don't you feel that we're in a society now or a medical tyranny that just is pushing everyone to feel they have a disease? So you're constantly going and looking for something to be wrong with you.
They're creating a nocebo. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
And
nocebo. Absolutely.
it's bad. I'm
100%.
hesitant to even go to a doctor because I don't want to be told, well, you need cholesterol medicine, you need this, you need that, basing it on your age. I had a doctor tell me 25 years ago that I was going to be dead of a heart attack if I didn't take cholesterol lowering medication. But I started getting into more natural medicine after I had an autoimmune disorder, Guillain-Barré syndrome. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
Well, Guillain-Barré syndrome it's an autoimmune disorder where your body attacks your nervous system.
Hmm.
Okay.
So it leaves people with a lot of permanent damage.
Interesting.
And I have like bilateral drop foot, which is difficult to deal with, but it's, livable. But that sent me in that direction because as I was healing, they just wanted to keep me on medications, blood thinners, immune suppressants. Well, I can imagine where I'd be now if I would have stayed on that path. But Mary was talking about, she had mineral deficiencies and things. And that's something I found in my own self. Plus I had high levels of aluminum once I started to get into it. And so when they started, when the naturopath doctor started doing a more of a detoxing, getting rid of this, my body started balancing out. But, there's a lot of that because of what we're exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But, I'm interested in this. Oops, sorry.
They can join too if you want.
Yeah. It's my son, he might be interested. But now I'm dealing with a sprained knee and I can't get any help. So I'm trying to work with my own natural healing. And I've been doing some of those. I started getting interested in Joe Dispenza's work. Are you familiar with him?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
And which has led me in all these directions. So this is why I'm here, interested in what other people are experiencing.
That's great.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've all been there at one time or another. And, but you're right. I mean, when I started doing a lot more of research, on everything that we do, the medical industry and medicine itself has always fascinated me. And, I think Gary and I were talking about this when we were doing one of our brainstorm sessions. I'm like, since they realized that, since the moment that medicine went from a healing industry to a profit industry, right about that time, all of a sudden you started seeing all these doctor shows on TV.
Oh,
Seriously.
That's true.
And it's just like, holy cow. And I never put the two together until doing some of this research. And I'm just like, whoa.
The television's such a big propaganda machine that it just drives the narrative.
Well, it really is a programmer. And now all these studios and these companies that put these shows together and such, even the talk shows and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they have an army of psychologists working for them. It's like, oh, no, do it like this. Change the script like this. Say it like this, because you can hear it. Gary and I can hear it now. We're just like, in my head will just tweet. I'm like, what? What did that person just say? Rewind it. And it's unnerving. But this has been going on for a very, very long time. And this isn't a conspiracy. I'm not, throwing out conspiracy stuff. This is just the way it is. And it's not.
You have to look at who advertises, who's the advertiser of the show, and then you'll know the narrative.
Well,
a lot of the shows are being their main advertisers, Pfizer.
Yeah, well, that started back in 1995, I believe it was, somewhere in there, when they made it legal for the drug companies to do that. We're the only country in the world that allows drug companies to advertise on TV. We're the only one. And mind you, we are the sickest country.
Well, I've heard it quoted that we are 5% of the world's population, and we take, I believe it was 75% of the pharmaceutical drugs.
That's ridiculous.
But it's promoted to us as the answer to everything. I mean, if you take this drug, you'll be happy and mow your lawn. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy how
mow my lawn. Mow my lawn.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah.
What pill is that? That's just a cup of coffee that'll get me to mow my lawn.
I read a book that I found extremely interesting, and because food and nutrition was my first dive in after the diagnosis of cancer and supplementation and things like that. But like I said, I'm on a new adventure now. I have to give away some of those beliefs I once had because they're turning out to be false to some degree regarding nutrition and supplementation. That's a whole nother story. But the book I read was basically an archaeological timeline of food. And one of the things that I found super interesting in the book is that they went through things like fermentation, how people kept food, why fermentation became a thing, and then it ended. It would had a chapter on barbecuing. It has, it was very. It had a chapter on bread making, all the things that we do specific to food, and what regions developed it, why, and it was but sort of written. The book's called Cooked. Anyway, the one chapter on bread was super interesting. So when the Industrial Revolution happened and we industrialized the processing of wheat and we removed the bad outer shell of the wheat and began to, she says tongue in cheek, and began to only process the soft kernel on the inside. They actually have documented and studied that everywhere that mechanization was introduced, they began to see a severe increase in Western disease, diabetes, arthritis, things like dementiating illness, all those things. And that would make you pause and go, what he then covered in the book was when they removed all that fiber, you had your Industrial Revolution factory workers using the bathroom less, so it kept them on the floor longer. It created a more productive.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's
everything's profit driven,
right?
For sure.
Exactly. Yeah, I thought that was absolutely fascinating to learn that we've known how healing food can or cannot be since the 1800s.
Yeah.
Which is when the Industrial Revolution sort of stepped on the scene. But we've done nothing about it, right? Because, working for profit in a factory, made everybody's lives, and I'm using air quotes, better.
Yeah.
In some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. But that part is super fascinating. It's not, and then we've just continued to sort of roll with that mentality.
Well, it's a part of it is that, again, societally, we've been conditioned as a norm to just take what's been given to us in the form of information as that's the way it is, and not really go any deeper, search any deeper, because number one, we didn't have the internet or the resources to do that. I mean, we'd have to wait for the newest version of the encyclopedia to come around to get our updated stuff.
Well, who wrote the encyclopedia?
I mean, I remember, I was, a bit of a brain geek. I remember waiting for the encyclopedia set so I could go to the section on psychology to read that what was new and was, I mean,
You're dating yourself. Just
no.
There's people listening going, what's an encyclopedia?
What's an encyclopedia? Is that like a Wikipedia?
That was Google Junior, everyone.
Google Junior. Oh, that was Google Senior.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think that there's that part of it as a society we've gone away from, tuning into the wisdom of the elders, and we've kind of succumbed to the wisdom of the promotional machine, right? Whatever that is at the time, whether it's the radio, whether it's a TV, or whether it's internet or whatever. I mean, it's just evolved over the years into a different format. That's all. Right. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was the book, even though it wasn't intended to enlighten one in that manner, it really did, because then he covered another chapter in there about how prepared foods came on the scene, and how, it sort of evolved from there, where you buy a package and it's easy to feed your family. And like you said, it's not just the pharmaceutical corporations that have psychologists on their team that know how our brains work, right? That know how our brains work, and they encourage you to, be this smiling person in the kitchen opening a box of whatever it is to feed your family with, and it's fabulous because it's easy, and forget about nutrition and forget about what your body might need.
Put the beautiful
Yeah.
colors there, put the
I'm a-
smiling person on the cover, and
Exactly.
those kinds of
Yeah.
things, right? So
I'm
it's,
Do you
I'm a
feel-
big fan of Gary Taubes. Have you read any of Gary Taubes' books?
I
Yes,
have not.
I have.
The Truth About Sugar is probably his best. And he's he's an investigative journalist, and he really delves in deep. And you're right, Mary. I mean, it's all about, the science behind it, the profit behind it, and the ability to make a food addictive now. So
Yeah.
Philip Morris, who owned Marlboro and a lot of tobacco companies, when they finally got sued and they finally kind of got taken down a peg or two and such, they just moved into the food industry. So let's find something else that we can get people addicted to. Sugar, salt, fat. It's another book by Gary Taubes. Another one, finding that right combination to get you to just keep eating. The old Lay's potato chips commercials. No one can eat just one.
mm-hmm.
You know why? Because they're the ones who brought MSG to the market. MSG
Yeah,
turns off your adrenaline to tell you that you're full.
the neurotoxin.
Yeah,
MSG's nasty.
it
yeah.
is. It is. So,
Do you think
yeah,
we're
I
at
mean,
a turning point, though? You guys,
that,
do you guys
Linda?
feel like we're at a turning point somewhat?
Yes.
I-
We
I
talked
think
about that
I
yesterday.
think-
I think we've
Because
been in a turning point for a while, right?
Yeah.
But I think the metaphor I like to use is to think of it like, if we consider mankind to be like this big ocean liner in the sea of reality, when you make a shift, when you make a turn with an ocean liner, you're not going to do a 90 or 180. You're going to do a 1
Miles.
degree and a 1 degree and a 1 degree and a 1 degree
Right.
and a 1 degree, and eventually get there. And so that's kind of what we're going through. We're going through that transition. And I think on a ethereal level, on a spiritual level, there's some people that are going to choose a reality version where that ship continues in the direction they were going in, and there's some people going to choose that they're going to be on a different ship, and that's where we'll end up, where we'll be in a reality. And again, this is just my belief system. I think that we're going to be in a reality where we're in alignment with the people that are able to sustain their congruency in those belief systems that are of like mind, right? So whether it's of like mind for the negative draconian tyranny and all that, that's what they'll end up in. And whether it's for, back to freedom and expression and self and care and community and that kind of stuff, then that's what we'll end up in. But it's the consistency. But what's happening is that version of reality is trying to hold tight. It's grasping onto its ability to be sustained. And that's why you're seeing these drastic results that are happening on the planet.
Right.
Right. Everything from the war potentials, everything from the, what's going on in the governments and the people rebelling and standing up and saying, no, this is not, I think as a society, being all of Earth, there's a group of people that are strong and congruent and committed to a certain way of us moving forward. And there's a certain group of people that are holding on to the way that we were moving because of fear of the unknown.
Well, yeah. Well, fears, it seems to be the driver for a lot.
It's a huge,
Right
yeah,
now.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
It's, yeah.
But again, not good or bad, though. I think it's important to understand it's not good because I think, when those of us that are, looking for the light and blah, 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 the boo-ish type stuff, right? When we're looking for that reality to show up, there's the element of fear of going into what we don't want. Now, it may not be manifesting as shock fear, but there is a fear of, hey, I don't want to be in that. That's a reality I prefer not to be in.
Oh, exactly.
Right.
And I struggle with that. I mean, how strong is that in where it's taking? You don't want to live in fear.
Absolutely.
But you have that underlying
as a reflection.
feeling.
We use it as a reflection as opposed to as a means of living through it. Yeah. And that's the difference, right?
Right. It's a matter
So
of
it takes-
staying, Linda, it's a matter of staying in the eye of the storm.
Yeah.
Okay, let the
Yeah.
fear swirl around you, but not on you, not in you. Don't react to it. Just observe it. Just look and say, okay, well, there's a lot of fear out there. I'm not afraid, but there's a lot of fear out there. I'm going to choose my own course. The fear is built because if you can get people afraid enough or mad enough and such, and then you come in with a solution, they're more apt to accept your solution. It's not
Well,
necessarily a
exactly.
solution that's the best for them, but it's
Right.
in the best of whoever has that solution, whoever's
Well,
creating this.
you can see this in I mean, I'm living in a retirement community, so we see a lot of people have the fear,
Yeah.
and a lot of
Mhm.
people
Yeah.
refuse to even look at an option other than what
Yeah.
what they're
The
told.
current,
Yeah.
Yeah, the current
the
mainstream
current
thing.
narrative. Yeah. The current
Yes,
narrative.
and it's difficult. You just have to be quiet and let it go. But I just sometimes it just breaks my heart to see the shape they're in physically, because they keep taking more and more things they don't need, and they're sickly, and you go, oh, you could have such a different outlook if
Yeah.
you didn't follow that. But sometimes you can only talk about it when someone's open to it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we've talked about it in other
and I
streams,
do
is that-
have openings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have openings. People will approach me because they know
Good.
how I feel about certain things, and
Yeah.
they'll come and say, well, I'd like to treat something or another, and I can give them direction or guidance in that
Mhm.
area. But
Mhm.
I'm finding myself personally, what's helping me is I'm doing a lot of meditating now.
Good.
And
you.
it keeps me calmer, because
you.
I
Mhm.
have very reactive over some of this. I get so angry at what they're doing to everyone,
Yeah.
and it's difficult. So meditation has been my sort of reprieve. from
Linda, have
this.
you listened to the Enter the Trance Matrix episode?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, you should go back, go into you, just check in the YouTube channel and check for, I can't remember what number what was, just a few, we didn't do it that long ago. I think 51, 50 or something like that.
52.
It was around the 50, early 50s.
Okay.
And Enter the Trance Matrix is the episode. And yeah, it's a good one to kind of give you some tools on creating your own trance induction process and have some fun
Okay,
with that. It's a
great.
really good one to check out.
Yeah, because I've been watching Greg Braden.
Oh, good.
He has
Yeah.
a lot of good stuff, and then
Yeah.
and like I said, I was doing a lot of the Joe Dispenza stuff. I've read a lot,
Yeah.
listened to a lot of his stuff,
Yeah.
which led me into your stuff, and on this
Oh,
goes.
great.
It's like like you said,
Good,
the
Gary,
rabbit
we're
hole. Once you
famous.
go down the
That's
rabbit hole,
right. That's awesome.
it's never ending. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually, Ross and I were just talking last night about Greg Braden, and
Yeah.
I remember back in 98 or 99, I watched Greg Braden put out I think they actually came out in 96, but I didn't watch it till 98 or 99. Greg Braden put out a video series, at least it was a video series at the time, in VHS that I got my hands on.
VHS, yeah. Glad we don't have to use that anymore.
and it was Awakening Beyond Zero Point, and oh my gosh, that just blew my doors. It was so
Yeah.
amazing. It's different from the communication he does today and the type of stuff he teaches today, but even back then he was just such a great orator. He was such a good presenter of information, and I've been following his stuff ever since. And
Well, I'm very
and
interested
Dispenza-
in the heart brain.
Mhm.
That
Oh, nice.
that was a biggie for me
Yeah.
when I started. I mean, I don't totally understand it at this point, but I'm
Mhm.
just starting to.
Yeah.
Joe Dispenza talks about it a lot, and so does
Yeah.
Greg Braden. How your heart has this brain,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
I'm
well-
going. All this time they're trying to medicate my heart, and I can just talk to it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. Well, the heart-brain coherence is such a paradigm shift from the way modern medicine thinks of it. They think of every organ as separate.
Yeah.
And
Right.
what they're saying is that no, there's actually neurons in the heart, and neurons really are only in the brain
Yeah.
up until we've discovered all this. And so, they're saying there's a huge, correspondence. You also want to maybe look at heart math.
Yeah.
HeartMath is amazing. That's
And they've
all.
HeartMath they've
Is
done
that,
a ton of
what is
research.
that? I just look up heart math.
HeartMath is an organization that does so much research. You'll notice that a lot of.
Oh, I think that was
Dispenza-
mentioned. I
yes,
remember that.
Dispenza
Yes.
and Greg
now I
Braden talk a
remember.
lot about it because their research is so good.
Yeah.
And they look at the heart, they look at the properties of the heart, they look at the communication, they look at the field that the heart generates compared to other organs in the body. Yeah.
Isn't this just exciting time though
Oh, yeah,
to learn all this?
absolutely.
I just love
Totally.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much information and
not
it's
enough time in the
exciting to learn
world.
this. There just isn't. Yeah, I have to go to sleep, and that's the problem.
I hear you.
But I'll tell you, I mean, there's so many people here that have sleep problems and stuff, and I go, there's a lot of natural answers to that. I mean, I've solved mine. I had mine. It's been a lot of years, but I mean, I sleep a good 7-8 hours every night.
Mhm.
But it's a matter of breaking down all these things that it covers a lot of areas. It's medications, it's beliefs, it's stress levels. There's so many things involved in this.
And it's back to what you were saying earlier, as far as about, or maybe Mary was saying it, as far as nutritional aspects and deficiencies. And a lot of these can be cured that way, correct?
It's absolutely amazing, because I have struggled with sleep for a multitude of years, how much gut health has to do.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that true?
And,
Yeah.
yeah, and liver detox and
Yep.
detox pathways. Are they working? Are they functioning properly? Are you
So many
giving your body? It is incredible. I've just started this adjustment.
We're actually going to be doing a masterclass on sleep and dreams, a master lab, and it's going to be like a 3-hour type event where we're going to cover all kinds of stuff in
that's
in
exciting.
the dream, sleep, and analyzing dreams and all that kind of stuff. And so it's going to be fun. So
and there's kind of an intro to that in 2 weeks on one of the live streams in 2 weeks that we'll be kind of doing an intro to show what the master lab is doing, because it's in my personal belief, I mean, sleep is at the center of everything. It really is, and it's so much more than you think it is. Well, it's so much more.
I have some wild dreams, and sometimes there is incredible clarity with the dreams I have, especially right before I wake up.
Yep.
You know, a recent dream was my home, which was not actually the house I live in, but it was my home, burned to the ground. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, you know what? That's all of my belief systems. That was all structures. It just was like so super clear. It's like, yeah, I can walk away from that. I don't have a problem with that at all. If that's what needs to happen. It was just so clear because, or, you know, you have a dream like that and you're like, wow, what was that? And it was nice to have instant clarity though, that and total peace about, that's cool. Yeah, dreams are so cool. That stuff is amazing.
Yeah. Sure.
They're the body's messaging system. Okay, so we're just about near the end of our hour. Any other questions that we can answer for you? Any specific thing?
I'm good, but you all touched on some stuff that on Thursday that was not necessarily about the placebo effect directly. It was so cool to catch a strand of something that was much deeper, and my insides got so excited because it connected some dots for me that had nothing to do with the placebo effect.
That's it. Well, good. Well, if you have any other questions,
so what you're saying, Mary, is that some seeds were planted and some roots are being established.
Absolutely, and actually, you probably watered some very tiny little plants.
Awesome. Now, here's the thing, like having that realization now, when you start to go back and listen to our previous streams, you're going to see there's a lot more of that than we've led on in the past. Oh,
I'm quite sure there is, but you know, I how do I say this? Oftentimes it's enough to digest a message that's at the forefront
Yes.
and not get
Right.
infinity matrix indigestion. Because I'm the kind of person that wants to process it all at once, and my inner self goes, "Whoa, girl!"
Well, see, that's why
Oh.
that's why we created the rabbit hole. This is your place to burp.
Yes.
That's a
Yeah, exactly. Again, I cannot say how much I appreciate y'all, because you have been a light unto my path for
Oh,
sure.
thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
This is
so
very
much.
kind.
We appreciate
I'm
you
so
guys.
glad
for
I
being here.
came across you guys, and I will definitely be back.
Oh,
Great.
thank you, Linda.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't
appreciate
have
that.
anyone to talk to about these things.
Well, this
Well,
is it, right? We need to create a
Seriously,
community.
I mean,
Yeah.
my poor
Yeah, we need to
husband, I
create a
just beat him
community
up
where
with
we
it.
can have these open conversations,
Yeah.
right? And we can talk about things that are not normally talked about, where we can expand our perception of who we are and what our capacity is, right? You know, and
Right.
like I said in the stream, the goal is to get to a place where you can allow the uncomfortableness of who you were to constantly inspire you into the unknown of who you're going to become.
Okay.
Right, and that's creating this atmosphere, this community of people that can consistently remind us of that uncomfortableness of who we were, so that we can consistently strive to become who we're going to be.
I say, bring it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we brought it.
Awesome.
And we're going to keep bringing it.
And
No,
we
Thank
need
you
a
so
village.
much.
Everybody needs a village.
Absolutely.
Everybody needs a
do.
village.
And I think it was Linda, you said you're in a home, right? Or in a
A
No,
retirement.
I'm in a retirement community in Tucson. I mean, no, it's a great
Mhm.
place. I mean, you
Yeah,
have pools
you know,
and
and
all
so-
kinds of stuff going on, and bike paths and you name it.
So the
It's
thing
an
to
active
do,
community,
you know,
yeah.
so the thing to do is to invite some of those others into the conversation, because then they can ask and find out and get curious, and allows that platform where they can kind of investigate for themselves and maybe open up and plant some seeds for them,
Yeah.
so that you're
That's
not a
true.
lone wolf, right? So that you
I
have a
drop
community.
little hints and little
Yeah.
discussions
Well,
here and
you know,
there.
I mean,
And I've been looked at like I came from Mars.
No,
but
I get it.
just
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
Been there.
you know, I'm
Yeah.
a little weird. I'm a little quirky. Yeah.
weird is good. So we're here
But,
every
yeah.
Saturday. Rabbit Hole goes.
Oh, you
every
are? Okay.
Saturday,
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
And this is just an open discussion. You know, we're not just talking heads. We're here to, you know, the live stream is we're talking heads. We present the data. We present the information. We present some tools, and many times as well. And then, you know, the Rabbit Hole on Saturdays is just like, hey, what do you want to talk about? You know, we started generally with the topic from the live stream, but that's why we call it Rabbit Hole. We don't know where it's going to end. And so, you know, it works very, very well. And we get to interact with people like yourselves, and we just, you know, we're charged up for the rest of the day after we do this. It's great.
Well, I'm going to go back and look at some of your other episodes
Yeah,
and listen
please
to
do.
those, and then I will certainly be back next week.
There's 58 of them, I believe now,
Okay.
plus the rabbit holes. So yeah, there's quite a bit. And they're
56.
very
We're 56. I think we're 57
okay.
next week.
Yeah. Oh, and the Transmatrix's number is 51, episode
51. Okay.
Yes.
I will
And,
definitely listen to that.
yeah.
Oh, I'll be busy.
Yes.
And also, Linda,
did that a lot.
I don't know, do we have a specific playlist for the meditations I've done, Ross, for the visualizations I've done?
No, not yet.
Okay, so you will find in some of the previous ones that I do actually do like a whole guided visualization process / meditation / trance induction during the stream at the end of a stream. So you'll come across those as you go through them as well.
If you put in the Infinity Matrix meditation, then the ones that are posted will come up, but I don't have a playlist for me yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much for
It
all
was
you
our
do.
honor. It was absolutely our honor to interact with the two of you. If Gary and I are always available on instant message. So
Okay.
if you're thinking about, you know, conversation, go, oh, you know, I forgot to ask this, or what, want some clarity, just instant message either one of us, and we'll get to you pretty
Well,
quickly.
I'm sure after I listen to some of these other episodes, I'll have some questions.
Yeah, well, and bring those to the, bring those to the rabbit hole. We'd love to.
I
get back
will.
and-
I will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. We're here to serve.
All righty.
Very
Thank
cool.
you.
All right. Be well, everyone. Thanks, ladies, for jumping on,
Bye-bye.
and everybody else
Thank
that
you.
was and didn't come on video or audio. Thank you for being here as well. And again, if you are watching this either live or on the replay, please remember to hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell to get notifications of when we go live and when we add new content. Thanks, everyone, for being here, and we will see you on the next stream.
Have a great weekend.
You
See you
too.
next
Bye.
Thursday.
Bye-bye.